Platonic terms. The division of one into two creates new elements. Sure, why not? Well, each of these elements, of these new elements, partake of the nature of the one and of the other. Okay? Thus, duality is itself dual in nature. It is duality that lies at the origin of good and evil. Okay? And this is reflected in many ways in Egyptian symbolism. Beautifully so. Well, duality as the call to unchecked chaos and multiplicity is symbolized by the serpent fiend Apop, who devours the souls of the dead and thus denies them reunion with the source. This is the at-one-ment, is how we Christians would call this. This is the atonement. Let me read this again. Duality as the call to unchecked chaos and multiplicity is symbolized by the fiery serpent fiend Apop. Not the fiery, but the serpent fiend Apop, who devours the souls of the dead and thus denies them reunion with the source. Duality as higher intellect, duality as primordial creative impulse, is the serpent in the sky, the cobra, symbol of Lower Egypt, which is synthesis or creation. The symbol for Upper Egypt is Mut, also Nekhbet, the vulture. This represents, in all of its aspects, gestation and primordial reconciliation. Now, this is interesting because reconciliation is the translated term katalaga of the Greek in the New Testament for the word atonement, and I will get into that. Well, cobra and vulture both adorn the royal diadem, the king's headdress, the royal diadem, the uraeus, which is the crown of Pharaoh, earthly symbol of the divine man, and the cobra is a goddess. The unification, again, not only of the male and female, but of the heavenly and earthly, so on and so forth, all opposites united. Well, it's neither accident, nor politics, nor animism that determines this uraeus serpent. The divine man must be able to distinguish, and we have to be able to reconcile. That dual power resides in man's brain. The diadem itself is modeled on the anatomical structure of the brain. Isn't that fascinating? Well, down to the minutest detail, Egyptian symbolism incorporates an astonishing combination of aptness of choice and wealth of amplification. The use of animals as functional types also allowed Egypt to indicate clearly the realm in which the action or event was played out. On page 133, he really explains this well. Man, and this is the power, this is the grandeur of Joseph Smith's teaching in the King Follett Discourse. Here's how West puts it, from the Egyptian perspective now, see? Man contains the divine spark within him. Oh, this is very Gnostic also. Oh, this is the books of 1st and 2nd Jehu, which I will use. Absolutely. Oh, this is the Pistis Sophia. Well, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, man contains the divine spark within him. Therefore, the transcendent principles are always given human form. In the Egyptian art, see? That's what he's talking about here. There is a subtle yet important distinction between this Egyptian practice and the Greek, which at first glance may seem similar. Greece cut the gods down to human size, and they depicted them with typically ungodlike behavior. Egypt, however, Egypt started with the concept of divine attributes within man. The gods are not brought down to earth, rather, man is raised to the gods. And so the transcendent gods, those who commanded creation itself, Tum, Atum, Ta, Ammon, Min, Re in his generative role, they are always in human form. The netters, these are the gods, symbolized by that flag, the netter flag, or functional types, when they are depicted entirely in animal form, they are operating within the terrestrial sphere, within organic life. So, shown in human form with an animal head, they symbolize that functional activity within the human sphere. An interesting reversal of the process is the representation of the soul, the ba, as a bird with a human head. In other words, as the divine aspect of the terrestrial. In Egyptian symbolism, the precise role of the netters is revealed in many ways by dress, crowns, types of symbolic equipment such as a flail, a scepter, a staff, the cross of life. See through color, by position, size, and gesture. The netter reveals, to those initiated into symbolic language, a wealth of data, at once physical, physiological, psychological, and spiritual. And the data are always in action. It is this that constitutes the fundamental superiority of the symbolic science. It illuminates the living process without analyzing it, dissecting it, and killing it. And yet it can convey precise information or measure if this information is what is desired. The charge of cumbersomeness may be leveled with a degree of justice, yet what could be more cumbersome than modern education? A whole lifetime goes into studying a single specialization, and when the specialist has mastered his appropriate jargon, he is incapable of communicating with a specialist in any other field, much less with an artist or a philosopher or a theologian. I love that. That's very interesting. And, well, actually, it's a lot more than interesting. It's extremely relevant because of the type of symbolism we have in our figure 7. You see, we have the human deity figure enthroned, but with a hawk back on him, with the tail and the wings. We have a serpent deity presenting some kind of an eye. We have a lotus stand, a plant. So this may seem technical and really rather odd. We are dealing with the ancient world after all, but the symbolisms are fantastically relevant to our LDS doctrinal theology. This is what makes John Lundquist's book, The Temple, the Meeting Place of Heaven and Earth. It's published by Thames and Hudson in 1993. He says on page 5, really, truly a fabulous overview. The temple, and this is in all of the ancient temples, whether in India or Africa or Egypt or Mesoamerica or the LDS temples today. It's irrelevant which temples or which time. This is the overall view. Well, it incorporates within itself most of the ideas that make up our concept of religion. Oh, yeah. These include the idea of the center, the sacred mountain, the sacred waters and trees of life, sacred geometry, orientation to the 4 cardinal directions, initiation ritual, sacred dance, the mysteries, New Year festivals, ideas of cosmos, chaos, and creation myths. In the setting of the temples, we see that these and other symbols and rituals and sacred textual traditions, they arose. And it's within the temple that they have their deepest and truest meaning. All time, the temple has been the repository of the esoteric tradition, that is, the sacred knowledge, not given to the public. And that, of course, is where the mysteries are found, is in the temples. And the temple libraries is where the books were kept. These were the house of life in ancient Egypt, he says. It's not a matter of book learning, though. You have to experience this. You have to go through the rituals. You must become a participant in the life process, in the regeneration process. This is how our facsimiles can become